Why do you think, as humans, we hurt other people in the way that we've been hurt? It was interesting. I'm thinking about this because sometimes what I've seen in my clients and sometimes in myself is that propensity to continue like a generational pattern of either hurt or disappointment, whether we're hurting others or we're hurting ourselves. So, in certain families, people will stop talking to each other. And if you grow up seeing that, chances are you're going to do that maybe to your family or to your siblings or to your friends because it is a pattern that you've seen over and over and over again. It's not right, it's not good, it's not healthy, but it is a generational thing that kind of happens. And you often see if there's a pattern that emerged in one generation, it continues to perpetuate until someone decides to make it stop. Think of bullies, right? Bullies are those who were bullied. My kids went to camp once and they came back and they were talking about this kid who was really bullying the both of them. And of course, me being the mom, I'm like pointing out the kid. So they did in the parking lot. They're all getting off the bus and the kid goes scampering off. Kind of looked at one of the moms and I'm like, that's got to be the mom. So I went up to the mom and I'm like, hey, don't think it's a big deal, but I think it's something you need to know that your son has been bullying my kids. And she just burst into tears because her son had just spent an entire year being bullied by others. And I said, you have an opportunity here to make this change, to stop the behavior, and to get in front of it, which is really quite fantastic. And I'm hoping that she did. There's a lot of people who have gone through a lot of different things, right? We all have our traumas, big T, small t traumas. How we decide to handle that and whether we decide to perpetuate the patterns that have been used against us is a choice that we actually make. Now, a lot of our choices, 95% of our choices are subconscious. They come based on feeling as opposed to thinking, right? Our feeling brain is the oldest part of our brain through the limbic system, the amygdala, the lizard brain, what I call the dragon brain, my book over there. And so, what often happens is our reactions and what we do perpetuates without us really maybe being aware of it. And I'm sure this has happened to you where things are going along and something happens, and maybe you think it's a big deal, it's a small deal, whatever. Someone stops talking to you and you don't understand why. And even sometimes when you try to fix it, the silence remains. And I find those probably the most disturbing. There's a, it takes a village to raise me. I've got two coaches and a therapist. And with one of them, I was talking about my anxiety about friendship, right? I find it very difficult. I think always that people are going to leave me. And we'll get into the background as to where that comes from. But basically, when there are relationships, there's a spectrum. There's a middle healthy spectrum where you feel secure and safe and confident. And then there's two other ends. One is anxiety, which is where I live, always afraid that people are going to leave. And the other one is dismissive, which is where we just turn people off. And oftentimes that switch doesn't turn back on again. And either end of those spectrums are not healthy. We always want to strive to be in relationships where we feel secure and safe and confident, knowing that we can depend on the relationships that we have around us. But I wanted to point out to you to take a look around you and ask yourself, are you perpetuating a pattern of behavior, whether it's really bad, like a complete silence, right, where you're cutting people off no matter what, you're not letting them back in, or if it's an extreme anxiety like mine, which can manifest in so almost like overdoing it and checking in, like and definitely emotionally checking in and always being afraid. And is there anything you can do to start making those patterns go away? Maybe those friendships are not the right friendships for you. Maybe they're not. Because if someone keeps cutting you out, it's only going to bring you pain. Now, your pattern may be to take that pain. You stop the pattern by saying, I'm not going to take this pain anymore. You kiss them goodbye and you wish them well. Don't wish them ill. We just wish them out of our lives. And sometimes we have to make those decisions. If you have an anxious way of looking at relationships, maybe what you need to look at is what is it that's making you really anxious? Like for me, it was self-derived. I made myself anxious. Nothing about what they did made me anxious, but I was always the catastrophic thinker. And so when you have those catastrophic thoughts, well, the remedy for it is to give your brain a different avenue to take, to say, in order to get friends, I'm going to be a good friend. Oh, I can control that. How can I be a better friend to this one individual? And that's where I've tried to focus my time and effort. And it is an uphill battle. It is not always one that I win, but that's how I'm able to overcome, by and large, the anxiety I have about friendships. I strive to say, but what can I do in order to make this relationship stronger, in order to make it richer, in order for me to not be anxious about it? And I will say, in the relationships I've applied that to, it has worked really, really well. But there's also been relationships where I've had to let them go. It was just not going to work in my world. Either there was too much pain and you can't go back, or I got iced out. And after a certain while, yeah, if you're waiting for people to come back to you, if you're waiting for an apology, maybe, if you're waiting for someone to change, someone to see things like you see things, you're going to be waiting for an awfully long time because you can't control that person. Maybe they'll come around, maybe they won't. But how long are you going to wait there in anxiety and in disappointment over and over and over again, hurting yourself before you're finally going to say, I'm just going to let that one go. If they come around, they know where to find me. Great, awesome. But in the meantime, I'm going to go focus on the healthy relationships. I'm going to focus on the things I can control. I'm going to focus on me and how I can make myself a better person. And I was just thinking about this morning, and I don't know who out there needs to hear this, but I hope that if you are in a pattern where you maybe strike first. I had a client who did that because if she hurt that person first, if they turned around and hurt her, she felt that she had the upper hand because she'd already dealt one of the killing blows. That's not going to build a relationship. It's going to eventually tear it to pieces unless it can be healed, unless the strike first mentality is replaced with a more cohesive, more conversational approach to understand where that strike first comes from. If you have things in your past that are like traumatic responses, where a lot of where my stuff comes from, the cult I grew up in and all of the upheaval that went through my life, you do need to find someone who is at a high enough pay grade they can help you through that. It's not an easy path to follow. And like I said, it takes a village to raise me. And I'm really grateful for those who've been around me to help bring me back and rehab my mentality. So look at the way that your relationships are going right now. Are you on the anxious end of the spectrum, or are you on the dismissive end of the spectrum? Are you worrying that people are going to leave, or are you just cutting people off and never letting them back in? Sometimes when people have done that, I have been said, okay, if you're going to cut me off, that's fine, but you know where I am. And here's what you can do. This is how you know you've been a bigger person. Let's say someone cuts you off. And then they come back and they say, I know why I did it. And I'd like to pick up again. I did this with someone and I told them they're being mean. I said, if you're done being mean, come back and we'll talk. So they said after 3 months, they went and got themselves some help, came back, I'm done being mean. Great. We met, we chatted, we cried, we hugged, we laughed, and it's been fine ever since. Relationships can be rehabilitated if both sides desire the same result. But don't go into one where the dismissiveness or the anxiety continues to rupture, either for you or for that other person. Do the healthy thing. Focus on what you can control. Are you doing everything you can? Are you doing everything you know? Are you trying all of the different avenues without malice, without thinking that you expect something from someone else? Because as soon as you expect something from someone else, you increase by a magnitude of 1 billion the opportunity for you to be disappointed. You have to understand that even though you may want people to do something, they may never do it. They may never come around. They may never see your point of view. They may never agree with you. Can you be okay with that? And depending on the magnitude of what we're talking about, sometimes you can, and honestly, sometimes you can't. So protect yourself, be good to yourself, be kind to yourself, but take control of yourself. Stop the generational patterns. Stop the kind of things that you may have just done, maybe not generationally, but just you in your life based on the things you've gone through that you may be doing to either falsely protect yourself and in actuality, you're trying to hurt other people. Because remember, the bully knows what it feels like to be bullied. They know exactly the damage that they're inflicting on their little victim. Don't be that person. Be the bigger person. Be your more authentic person. Be your highest performing person. And what you'll find is that those rich relationships that you really want that maybe aren't in your life right now, those relationships in that middle where you're healthy and confident and calm and content and everything is going well. That's not to say you don't have disagreements, but you know how to come back from them. That's what a good relationship looks like. If you don't have those, take a look and ask yourself, what needs to go? What do I need to add? What do I start? What do I stop? Who do I want to have more in my life? And how can I be the person to attract more people like that?